Hello there. Today let's talk about the new feature that has been added to Scala manuscripts, which has in fact been around for a while now, but has only recently been introduced to the general public, called the Prohibited Person List. Previously known as exclusively Prohibited Author List, it has now been expanded to also include some additional roles. So what is this supposed to do? Well, this is intended to flag any user that has been added to an internal database of yours who attempts to make a submission or who is being added as a reviewer to a manuscript or being added as an associate editor. We even have that option as well. Now, before we get into setting this up and how this works, the most important thing is this feature requires access to web services and eAPIs. So if you do not have this service enabled, included into your contract, please reach out to your account director or your sales representative and inquire about what you need to do to obtain access to the web services API. If you do not have that, you will not be able to use the Prohibited Author List integration. With that said, let's jump right into it, and we're going to just run through a very simple scenario, which is going to show us what happens if somebody tries to submit a paper who is a match to your internal database or blacklist. And we're going to first go on to add that person to the list and then see what happens when they try and make a submission. So we are going to be activating some of the things that are needed first in the config. If you do not have access to this, you can contact Scala One and we will be happy to enable this for you. There is no additional charge for enabling the prohibited people list. So what you have here is enabling strong and weak matches. So the weak match will check upon the first initial and the last name. And you can also include some instructions on that match report. And the strong match will look for the email address matching. So usually I think the latter one will be most useful. And you can also then add reviewers and associate editors here to the mix, but we won't be doing that. We'll just be marking the reviewer here, and that should be it in terms of the setup. Now, once this is done, we are going to turn our attention to the API. And I'm going to go back here to the main page and then switch over to the API, and we can try making a call to get this done. So for the purpose of testing, we will be using Postman to make these calls, but you can use Python or whatever internal program you have that you use for making API calls. You will be making both GET and POST calls, so keep that in mind to select the appropriate type of call, and you can refer to the documentation that is included with the release notes. So without further ado, let's look at the call itself and what it needs to contain. So the most important thing is to make sure that you are directing the API to the right prod. So we are on prod 4 here, so it will be mc04./API, and then we can look at the query parameters. So the site name is the obvious one, and the role name is the one that will determine which role needs to be marked for this specific user. The key item is going to be the client GUID, and this number is actually whatever you want it to be. So my recommendation is to set up some sort of a structure and to have something standardized on your end, which you can use for all your sites. And the thing is, it has to be unique on the site level. So whatever you want it to be, usually we can just put in something like tests, some string of numbers, and then put in something like this. So this would work just fine, but it can be integers, it can be text, it doesn't really matter. It's up to you to decide what the client GUID is going to be. So with that said, we are going to make a call and make sure that we can now get the create token, which we need to add a person to the list. Okay, it's a success. And in the response here, we have the create token, which we're going to copy and then use in the post call, which we're going to make so we can add somebody to the list. So after that, we will switch to our post call. And here things might look a bit easier, but remember, we do have to post something to the actual database. And to do that, we are going to be using the body of the call, and here we are going to add the information needed. So first off, I'm going to copy over the create token, and just do it this way and mark it, paste it. Okay, we now have the create token. We can also set up the start date and the end date for somebody being in this list. So here I am going to add somebody to be in here until December 19th, 2025. Yeah, why not? So it's always going to follow year, month, day formatting. And our client GUID is going to be copied again from here. So whatever we set here is going to be used in the body. There you also put in the name, the last name, you put in the config ID. The config ID is the unique ID of the site that you are on. It's essentially a numerical name of the site. You do not have access to this, but ScarOne can supply you with a full list of config IDs tied to your sites. So do let us know if you need this and we will be happy to send it over. Finally, you can add the email address, you can add the affiliation and the role type. So the role types are well defined. They do not correlate to the role names. So role names are different. It can be corresponding author, it can be statistical reviewer. Role type is always author, reviewer, editor, editor-in-chief, admin, and so on. So they are the unique values across all ScarOne sites. And finally, once we have this added, we can add the person to the database. So let's give that a try. And we are getting a successful response, meaning that this person has been added. So this author has an account on the system, so we're going to proxy in as him and make a submission and then see what happens and how this is flagged. So let's jump right into it. I think I have an option of making a really quick submission here, so we can jump through all the hoops. And just go to submit, and the paper has been submitted. So let's go back to the admin checklist and see what happened. And now you can see the alert. So one or more authors has a strong match with the prohibited author list. And you can click on view matches and you can see what the report says. So there's a strong match on the exact email address, and that is being marked now here. The same tool can be used for reviewers as well. This would mean that if you're searching for a specific reviewer, that reviewer will be marked as being on the prohibited person list in the search results. There are still some updates that need to be made in terms of the search results and how the actual alert is displayed, but this will be addressed very soon, so we will also have that feature ready to be used in full. Thank you for watching.